Hey, cool dude, can I play too?
It's only a one-player game.
Then how come it says second player score?
You're listening to the Second Player Speaks podcast with Nerdpunk's Second Player Score.
All right, so this is the new episode of the Second Player Speaks podcast. We are Second Player Score, or maybe Drunken Philanthropy. I don't know. Could there be a name change in the near future? Probably not, but we'll see. Hey, by the way, did you guys see we had some listeners from Belgium?
Yes, I actually saw that.
Belgium.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah. The anchor gives you the demographics of your listeners, and there was like a little, most of it was from the U.S., but there was like 4% from Belgium. So if there's actually somebody in Belgium listening to this, if you didn't just click on it accidentally and tune out after the first 5 minutes, but you're actually listening to this, thank you for listening.
That's pretty awesome.
That's pretty cool.
Wow.
So,
International.
Worldwide.
That's right.
Wide.
This is now an international podcast. So today we're going to talk about, I think the first thing we're going to talk about is sort of a combination of both music and pop culture, which I guess is kind of this, it's kind of a trend apparently. Who knew, right? But, kind of a marriage of music and anime and like movies, TV shows, that kind of thing. So it's this thing. Sturgill Simpson, Sound and Fury, had this this thing that came out on Netflix just recently, and I checked it out. Netflix recommended it to me because I'm a huge anime fan, and so it said, hey, you might like this. And I'm a sucker for anything that's music related, so I thought, okay, I'll check it out. I didn't know who Sturgill Simpson was. Turns out, I looked into him afterwards, and I found out that he's this kind of popular country artist.
Oh.
Prior to but with this, he's kind of moving more into a little bit more, kind of like sludgy rock kind of thing. So, and I was really impressed. I thought it was really good. His lyrics, especially, were fantastic, I thought. And it was basically, if anybody hasn't seen it, it's like a visual album. I think it's made in anime style, where each song on his new album has like a little anime short that corresponds to that song, and it's really similar to an idea that we originally had for Glorified, for our third album, where we thought it was going to be kind of an anime thing, but if we didn't have a whole series produced, which is kind of what our ultimate goal is, we could do something like this where you just have kind of the imagery, and it. Coincidentally, it was like this. It was about a woman warrior in a post-apocalyptic future getting revenge. So
Oh, hey.
So I was like,
that.
yeah, it's like, hey, okay, well, So I enjoyed it. I think, and I know you saw it too, right? And
Yeah, I watched it, and it was funny. I have to agree with Dan. So when you were sending us messages about this, and we were talking about it before we had the opportunity to watch it, Dan's like, oh, wow, it's like everybody's out there like testing our ideas for us. It's so funny. It's so funny. Like we come up with this idea, and then all of a sudden, like a month later or something, you find like somebody else has got this on Netflix now,
right,
or whatever, and so
right.
It's like, wow, it's being tested for us. So we'll already kind of know what's going on when it comes, to be our turn. But yeah, I mean, it seemed to me like, of course, like a modern day heavy metal, and exactly what I had originally kind of when we were talking about Glorified originally, because I mean that would have been perfect for, before we had thought of the idea of doing the television series. Heavy metal was like what I was thinking about, because it would be perfect. Like it's an hour long, with whatever breaks in between the songs and stuff. But you could like go through the entire journey visually while listening to the album.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, heavy metal was like out in like 81 or something like that. I mean, this is a long time ago, and I still will watch that. Like if it comes on, I will still watch it. It is so cool.
Oh yeah.
And I just don't think that that's changed. One thing I didn't like about this Sturgis one, though, is that some of the stuff. Have you guys seen Undone on Amazon?
Mm-mm.
Okay, so
I don't think so.
It's
No.
got that animation. It's kind of like a Scanner Darkly.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like that animation. It weirds me out.
Really? No style.
Yeah, I kind of feel like you already filmed it. Damn it! Just why'd you have to put animation on top of it? You know, it just looks weird. I don't know. I have a hard time watching it. I don't know why. It just like I don't know. It just rubs me the wrong way. I'm not against it or anything. Like it's not like oh they're defiling the sanctity of anime or something like that. It's not that kind of thing. It's just I don't know. I just have a hard time watching it. It's almost like it hurts my eyes.
But it wasn't that same style all the way through. It was,
No.
it changed
That's what
as
I
it went.
liked. That's what I liked about this was that there were different animation styles throughout, which was also one of the things that I liked so much about something that was similar to this, which was also inspired by heavy metal, was Love, Death, and Robots on Netflix.
Yeah.
Also incredibly well done, where it wasn't so much music set to animation, but you could see where the heavy metal inspiration was in it.
Right, yeah.
And I loved that whole series. And the fact that you had all those different animation styles. I mean, the very first episode, my God, like there were points you're like, is this animation or did they film it? You just couldn't tell. It was is this animation or just like incredibly high definition film?
Yeah.
It was like really hard to tell. And then, like other episodes, like one of them looked literally like heavy metal, and it was just a little better defined. And, whatever. They had all these different ones.
Yeah, and that's what the creators of that. I mean, that's kind of what they wanted to go for. Is that they were actually trying to make something like heavy metal, and that's where the whole idea for that series came from. And then eventually, I think they had an original vision of it being like maybe closer to heaven, but it ended up being this series where they will like invite different creators who each did a different episode of the series.
Right,
I think,
that's
yeah.
right.
I think that's such a cool idea. And I can't remember. Maybe either we had this idea before I saw that, or maybe I saw that and then we had that. I don't know, but like with our first album with Fortress Storm Attack, I kind of want to do that kind of thing with that album. Eventually, where like, because we do this thing where like with Glorified, each song on the album corresponds to an issue in the comic book series, but also to an episode, in what will hopefully be an animated series one day. But like with Fortress Storm Attack, I think it's more of an anthology kind of thing where like I want to have get different creators, invite different people to do to do their own takes on each of the songs on that album. And like have it just be this kind of diverse thing, and just have everybody do their own thing. The one common denominator, of course, being that they have to sneak in a second player score cameo in it somehow.
Perfect.
We will be the Stan Lee of Fortress Storm Attack.
Right.
The Stan Lees
Exactly.
of Fortress Storm Attack.
Love
But
it.
yeah, that would be absolutely awesome to have all those different takes on Fortress Storm Attack.
So yeah, I think that'd be pretty cool. And yeah, like Love, Death, and Robot, I really enjoyed that series, and this Sound and Fury by Sturgill. I thought it's a good idea. It's good because it attracts a different audience. I think
Right.
if it wasn't for that, I would have never known who this guy was. I mean, he's in the country genre. I mean, that's how he's promoted, and so like I'm not a huge country fan, so I don't pay much attention to that. So I would have never known who this guy was. And I guess like he's kind of I guess he's what do they call it? It's a subgenre of country where it's not really pop. It's more like kind of like vintage Johnny Cash, almost kind of like like the more like the darker side of like alt country or whatever.
Okay.
And and like with this album, he's much more kind of leaning much more to the rock side of things.
Yeah.
And I really liked it. And if it wasn't for this show, I would have never found out about it. But then after I watched this, and I liked it because it drew me in through the anime side of things. Then I was curious, like, well, who is this guy? Like I liked his music, and I mean, could this be? It might be a new trend, or like I read another article about how people think this might be a new way of consuming music, where it gets combined with visuals, and like even like Tom York did that for like his latest solo record. He did a thing on Netflix also, which it was like kind of this very artsy short filmish type thing that corresponded to his new album. So it's almost, I think, like Dan, you said it when you replied to when I told you guys about this, and you were like, I'm watching an album now. I'm not listening to an album anymore. I'm watching it. This is a new way to discover and consume music, which is kind of cool, frankly. I mean, it's something different.
This is the 21st century MTV.
Right.
Yeah. So I mean, maybe we're actually on the leading edge. I mean, literally the only thing that's stopping us from being in the doing this same thing on that level is like just backing. I mean, we have the financial backing. We've got everything. Like, we've got the scripts, we've got the music, we've got everything. We just need money for animators. Right. Like, literally.
Help.
So I mean, we have it all there. But I know a handful of people already that had no intention of listening to the Glorified album until they heard that it had an anime tied to it. And
really?
Then they were like, what? And then you show them like the cover of the CD and everything, and they see that, and they see like, no, I'm not kidding, this really is like anime. And then they were interested. Like, now they wanted to know about it.
Cool.
Yeah. So so I mean, it does. I mean, starting to blend these things together. I mean, I think it works. I mean, okay, so MTV's not there anymore, right? They completely sold themselves out to make money however it is that they needed to, and reality TV kind of became the way to do it, right? Mm-hmm. So now there's this void out there, but the problem is that you have it. You have YouTube, right? And YouTube's basically your way to see videos now. You can see videos the way you used to see it on MTV, but now they're everywhere. But the thing is that anybody can make a video now. I mean, it used to be like, you had to go out, you hired filmmakers, you got your stuff on MTV because that was where you saw videos. You didn't see them. There was no internet, right? Well, now, I mean, anybody can make a video, to varying degrees. And like some really good ones, like super low budget, but they're really well done, so there's like this glut of videos. So, I mean, but it's nothing new. It's just it's bands doing the same thing over and over again. Yeah. I feel like this now, like having like a visual album is like the next step.
Yeah. Because when you were talking about that, I was thinking, well, maybe I need to backtrack my statement there, because you're right. Like, it's not necessarily a new thing. Like, when MTV came out, then you had the music video, and people could watch. You would watch a song, but maybe the visual album is like the next step. So maybe I wasn't totally off base. I don't know.
But I mean, how cool was that? Like, we were able to watch. Like, okay, so. It was what, like 41 minutes long.
Yeah.
Which is typical album.
Sure.
So now you can like watch an album. The thing is because of Spotify and all those different platforms, the bands have kind of been reduced to singles.
Right. Yeah.
Even when you make an album, like even though we make concept albums, like everything that we have is concept albums, and they all follow a story and the whole thing. Essentially on Spotify, it's just a grouping of singles.
Yeah.
It's up to the listener to decide if they want to have the entire experience. Right. It's there for them, but it's not like it used to be. Like, you get an album, you listen to the whole thing.
Yeah.
Right. But this is a way to like tie it all together again.
That's a great point, and I think that's good. I mean, I'm glad. I hope that can be a trend to bring that back, because to me, like I was always, I thought, I was always an album kind of guy. Like I understand the appeal of singles and things like that, but like I was always a guy who I felt like an album was kind of thing. It's one cohesive statement, like regardless of whether it's a concept album or not. It was one cohesive statement by the artist at one point in their careers, one point in time, that was meant to be a singular thing that you would listen to in order from beginning to end. And that's what kind of made the whole experience. That to me was always the way I felt music should have been consumed. Or that was the way I liked to consume music, was just by listening. Even till to this day, that's how I like to do it. Like, I mean, I'll listen to something. If I'll get an album. If there's a band I like, I get the album and I listen to it from beginning to end. And I don't like pull singles out of it or whatever. I know, like, Dan, you're a little younger than us. So I don't know if you have a different way of looking at it, or.
I mean, there's never really one specific way to absorb music for me. Like, if I can play it from beginning to end, I'm normally doing something else while I'm doing that. Like, there was rarely a time where I just sat there with my like CD player and just listened to the entire thing front to back. I was either like on a bus ride or I was like, walking to school or something like that. So there's always something else going on. It was kind of rare for me to sit down and have time to do that. So through that, then I would find like certain video games had a track that I loved. I'm like, okay, so now who is this? It's kind of like tying, like we were saying, how music is tied in with all these different forms of media to make it more digestible to different audiences. So then like animes would pop up and then like, oh, there's this killer intro song. Who was this band? And it'll be those kind of things. So going front to back, yeah, that was a little rare, but I would buy albums specifically for one song, but then get disappointed with like 8 tracks that I didn't really want for that one song that I did want. Yeah. So when enough of that happened, I'm like, okay, well, maybe I'll revisit it later on. Like when I first got Soundgarden Super Unknown, I was like, I didn't listen to it all the way through. Now I'm like, why the hell didn't I do that? Maybe I just wasn't ready for it at the time, or I don't know. But yeah, now I can appreciate it. But still, to this day, it's kind of hard to listen to one thing all the way through. Just to specifically sit down with your headphones and just absorb it like that. Right. Maybe it's just the attention span of the days or something. I don't know. But
I think in general, like your like mainstream kind of stuff now. I mean, I just don't think it like mainstream when I was like just coming out of high school, my early 20s and stuff. Was when even in high school, I mean, the music I was listening to, I would buy the album with the idea that I would listen to the entire album, and trying to get the message that the band was trying to get across. But that was in the days when an album was made to be complete. But because of the things that changed with first we had Napster and then we went into the more legal forms and everything got reduced once again. It got reduced down to singles. I don't think, at least on a mainstream level, you get very many bands or artists now creating an album. They produce enough singles to where maybe they'll put it on an album, but I don't think that like the intent is to go make an album with an all-encompassing message like it used to be. Because I mean, especially maybe in the first couple of years after I moved out of the house and I smoked a lot of pot, we would like go and get an album. Like I remember getting "And Justice for All," or we got. One of my roommates got all the first 4 Led Zeppelins. He got like a box set or whatever. Yeah. And like we would just get super high and we would listen to those albums beginning to end. And you would just be immersed in them, Whereas I just don't know. I don't see that happening now. But maybe now this is a new trend that will kind of give artists because I know independent artists that still do that, like us and other artists that like artists that I play on my show on Thursdays. I know some guys that also have some loosely based concepts with their albums and stuff. Kind of, they had the same kind of intent we did. But maybe on a mainstream level now with this new kind of visual, almost like an album movie per se, maybe it will have these artists going, hey, we can spread this all-encompassing message through an album again or whatever. So I'll be interested to see if that kind of changes that a little bit.
And that raises a question too, that like, because then I don't know, like, what do you guys think of this? Like, on the one hand, you can say, well, you have artists who are creating, like it's, maybe you have like 2 hit singles, and then you have a bunch of filler, like, and then, or like, is it filler, or is it like, if you're trying to make an artistic statement, maybe you have 1 or 2 songs in there that are like that these are not radio friendly hits, but it's part of the whole scene, like Mother on Synchronicity, by the Police. I mean, that's obviously not meant to be a radio single.
Oh, yeah.
It's this crazy, track, and
we have one interlude, Nobody's Hero.
Right? Yeah. So but that's the thing is like, is there what is the difference? I mean, I guess there's a difference, obviously, but I mean, should people be making a judgment about the, like, okay, well, is this art or is this filler? I mean, I don't know.
Yeah.
I guess it just depends. I guess it's the intent of the band. I mean, I think for like your example with the Police, I think that Mother, that song, they knew it wasn't radio friendly, but it was getting across whatever it is that they felt they needed to get across, and they were going to put it on there anyway. But I think maybe other bands, let's say, they're on contract and they've got an executive like breathing down their neck saying, hey man, you got to get an album out. You need to start making us some money. But we still need like 2 more songs for the album. Well, then you need to do something about it. Right. And it needs to be yesterday, So maybe they do have a couple of tracks. They're like, not really the greatest tracks, but we've got these other awesome ones out there. So, we just need to get it out.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I could certainly see needing to do that. I know, over the years seeing, stories about bands that I think, what was it? The Chili Peppers. I remember one of the ones that stands out in my mind where, the executives were like, hey, you guys are sitting on your ass, not doing anything. You're burning our money. You need to have an album in like a month or something like that. And when they went and like locked themselves in like a fucking castle somewhere, or whatever. And I think there's even a documentary out there about it that I watched back in the 90s or something, where they were locked in this castle and they couldn't leave until they had the album recorded or something like that. So, yeah, I mean, I think, maybe under the pressures of the corporate side of it, maybe they are like, hey, like, we've got this album. We've got 6 songs on it. They're really freaking awesome, but we need 2 more before we can release it. And we're tired of, CEO calling us up and breathing down our necks. So what about those other 2 songs? I mean, they're not great, but they fit. Yeah, let's throw them on there. It's like we need to get something out. Right. I could see that. I mean, I don't think that necessarily means that the artist doesn't care about what they're putting out, but I think that they're balancing, the corporate side with the artistic side.
Gotcha.
In that situation. Yeah. Are there artists out there that maybe just throw shit on there because they're like, well, we just need something? Yeah, that is very possible. But who knows, don't know enough about their situation to say one way or another.
Right, exactly.
I wish I was in those circles, but I'm not.
Yeah, wow. At that kind of level, yeah. I mean, with contracts and all that stuff, that's crazy. But like the whole sacrificial track, I mean, is it about storytelling or is it just filler? I mean, like you were saying, you don't really know.
Yeah, I mean,
unless you're a part of the band. I mean,
I mean, there's so many. There's a litany of ways that could happen.
Yeah, well, because the way we used it was for a grander scheme, like, well, in Nobody's Hero, the interlude, that's actually in the story. That's when they're making the demon spawn kind of thing.
Right.
And it's like a whole bunch of galloping drums and like, it's meant to be brought to the table with visuals, with the story, with everything else. But you wouldn't just play that one track on the radio. I mean, there's no lyrics. There's nothing.
No, yeah.
It depends, like you were saying, it depends how they want to use the song. Or what's the intent of the song? Is it contract? Is it storytelling? Is it a funny little thing? I don't know. We'll have to figure that out.
Amazingly, we are already past the time that we should be talking about beer. So.
Oh, shit.
Well, that's all right. Hey, we are not on a hard schedule here.
Careful. This one's a 9er.
Oh, boy.
Thanks, Dan.
Wow.
Well, I got to make space. Hold on.
It smells good. So what are we, what did you bring to the table today, Dan?
This one is Alpha Centauri by Hopworks. This is one of our go-tos.
Oh,
it's a 9% sledgehammer.
Oh, my
Hop
goodness.
Valley.
Oh,
Brewing
Hop
Company.
Valley.
Hop
I'm sorry.
Valley.
I'm sorry.
The Alpha Centauri Imperial IPA. Oh boy!
Wow.
Yeah, that we normally find that in like
practice is
the
going to be loose today.
the IPA like variety pack. And when we see that one in there, we're like, okay, keep that in the back of the fridge.
Yep, 9%. Woohoo! Cheers!
All right, let's give this a little something here. Ooh, wow,
Yeah, I can taste it.
man! I have not had this in a while.
Yeah, me too.
This is something else. I love the like the way that they do this. It's so hoppy, but it doesn't like bite.
Yeah.
I mean, and don't get me wrong, I like that if that's what I'm ready for. But this is nice to be able to get that ultra super hoppy finish at the end, but without feeling like you just got punched in the teeth.
Yeah, no, this is, these guys make good beer. They're from Eugene, Oregon, actually. So another sort of local brewery. But I love how this label says contains alcohol. Like, okay, all right,
A whole lot of it.
yeah. Thanks for that. Thanks for letting me know.
And I think I can't remember all of the Hop Valley beers, but I do think that I like with them they really adopted a full-on 100% beer theme. Actually, hop theme, like with their naming. All of their a lot of their names of their beers are all kind of derived from terms or names surrounded around hops.
Is Alpha Centauri?
Yeah, because it's the alpha acids in the hops that determine how bitter your beer is going to be.
Okay.
So
This is the educational segment of the podcast that we always have to have this, and here we go. I'm glad we're able to to squeeze that in there.
The higher the alpha acid, the greater the bitterness that you get from the. So like when I go buy hops for beer, if I want something that's going to be really bitter, then I'll get something with 15% alpha acids. Or whatever. And then. The other side of that too is that you can have like Magnum hops, which is kind of I think it's a German hop. They're really good. They give you the bitterness, but that smooth bitterness, kind of like with this Alpha Centauri, because they have a low cohumulone level, and so that's what gives you that bite, like that just smacks you in the face. So what's cool is that like when you have if you want let's say a stout, but you want it to be really bitter, but without it being kind of offensive, use like Magnums. But I remember I used to make IPAs with Magnum hops because I could find them in a really high alpha acid. But they never gave me that real when I wanted to make an IPA that just bit you in the face when you were drinking it. I couldn't get it, and I was like, what am I missing here? So I went back into my notes and everything from when I was taking classes and stuff. I'd forgotten completely about cohumulone levels, which that was what gives you the bite.
What?
Cohumulone. If I am correct, when you look at a hop, like an actual hop. inside you see you can see like little it looks like pollen basically. It's like yellow. It's
okay.
like yellow powder. I believe that's the cohumulone. Anyway, so when I looked it up, like Magnum has got like one of the lowest cohumulone levels of like any hops, right? And I'm like, oh, okay. We have a problem. so I switched up like the hops that I was using, and then next thing I know, I'm like, oh, I better tone this down now.
Gotcha.
I like went the completely other direction.
Wow.
But anyway, yeah. So that's your lesson for the day, I guess.
All right.
Your
Well,
beer.
We
very
learned a
good.
new word, too.
Yes. Yeah.
Cohumulone.
I'll just think of it like midichlorians.
Oh no, that's a whole nother subject. I think we could go off of that for a while, but anyway, maybe we'll save it for another time because I think we have actually reached the end of another episode here. So again, this is Second Player Speaks. We are Second Player Score. Look us up on Facebook and Instagram and Twitter and Spotify. See, I got Spotify this time. We have a
Spotify.
Kickstarter going right now for our glorified comic book series. Check that out if you like manga style comic books. But anyway, we shall see you next time.
Peace.
Later.
You've been listening to the Second Player Speaks podcast with Second Player Score.